Alright, hello and welcome to a Wave 23 start in the Magus Quarters Massacre Survival Hardcore. After the Ancient Mines, I think this is sort of the next easiest map to solo in Massacre Survival. So we're going to start things off here with an aura stack, and I'm going to get as close to the crystal as I can in the middle staircase, and then come down a step and drop an ensnare, electric, and a strength drain aura. For me, that made a big difference coming down a step because I needed a little more range over those fire pits to help with copter ogres. Next, we'll drop some flame burst towers down here, right in the middle of the staircase here, dead on at the crystal. I'll drop one right in the middle, just barely inside of the ensnare aura, and then I'll drop one on the left side and the right side. They need to be inside of the ensnare aura so that when the buff beam goes down, it'll actually buff all three auras and not just the other two. That was a problem for me, and making sure that these were actually inside of the ensnare aura solved that problem and got me consistent good placement on my buff beam. So next we've got some DSTs going down here, and I place it at the edge of this pathway that I'm on here that leads to the crystal, and I aim this one toward the left side, and I just barely cover that middle sort of platform that all three staircases converge on at the bottom. So that bottom landing at the bottom of the long staircase at the top of the two short ones, it's covering that little landing there. And these two DSTs going down here, they are going to do the same thing on the other side, just making sure that they cover that bottom landing after that long staircase where the two short ones meet. As long as the DSTs cover those landings on either side, you're good to go. You've got two DSTs covering each side, and then all four will be covering the middle. So you probably guessed it by now, this is where we're going to camp out. We're going to live on top of this aura stack with the boost monk. But next up, we're going to switch over to a beam EV and drop a 5 DU buff beam. It's got to be 5. I could not for the life of me get this to work with a 4 DU buff beam. If you can, let me know, but I couldn't make it work. It had to be 5. 5 will give you plenty of length to work with, though, and then you can, well, what I always do, and I recommend you do too, is after you drop a buff beam on some towers, actually check and see if all of their DPS match, because sometimes that animation where the pink clouds are popping off, I don't think that's all that reliable. I think sometimes it's hard to tell. So got some EV walls going down here now. 3 DU EV walls going down to wall off the crystal here. It's going to go across the front path and kind of overlap with those ramps. And then I'm going to tuck the first node of this wall into the corner there, and then come over to the second big brick, the line, on the second large brick in that wall there. I'm going to come over to this side and do the same thing. I'm going to tuck the first node into the corner there of the stairs, and then come over to the second line of these big bricks here. That's kind of an easy reference point for where to put these walls. And then we're going to have some reflect walls going down here as well. Right behind the aura stack, I'm going to start the node off and drop a 2 DU reflect wall and just stretch it back to go on the other side, just the other side of that statue there. That's going to be perfect for walling in the crystal. Next up, we're going to drop some 1 DU reflect walls here. Going to box in the tower stack here for us, protect us from any kind of projectiles. This will also give you the freedom to farm up some siren loot if you want. You can stand here and shoot at them, and they will not be able to get you. And of course, webs and whatnot, we will be protected from them as well. Next up, we'll drop a reflect beam behind the tower stack. This is very helpful because we're going to have some spiders dropping down behind us, and it's pretty important that a reflect wall is back there. That way, the spiders can't just sit there and toss spider webs at your towers. Of course, they will go down eventually to the electric aura. You can ignore them, and they'll take care of themselves back there. But now we're going to drop some gas traps. Just one at the top of each staircase works great for me. I think this is a good spot to drop them, and that is actually all we'll need for traps. Once again, the trap hunters kind of being relegated to just gas traps. I'm going to swap over to my DPS booster monk here. Max out the buff beam first and foremost. It's going to buff the damage on everything and give you even more range on your auras, which is going to be much needed. Next, we'll have 3 levels go on the strength drain aura, 3 on the electric aura, and then 3 levels on each of the walls, and that's going to do it for out here. But then the rest of the mana I'm going to use that to level up each tower 2 levels. Now, a couple quick things for reference with stats. I'm running about 4,000 range on my Aura Monk. I think you need at least 3,000 to make this work, and I do show all of my stats at the end. In a sec, I'm going to cut over to a Wave 1 start. If you don't need to see that, feel free to skip to 8 minutes and 39 seconds into the video. For Wave 1, we can start with our Aura stack here in the same place as we dropped it for the Wave 23 start, and then we can drop a couple of our EV walls since we have 60 mana, and they are 30 apiece. The same place as we did before, going to tuck into the corner of those stairs here and then go over to the second brick in the wall on the other side. Going to angle it off just so that the enemies can't get to the tower stack. I always start Wave 1 off on this bridge because I want to shoot down this Copter Ogre. That way he doesn't fly over the pit and die, and then I miss the mana that he drops. There are some other high priority targets too, like the Djinn. They drop quite a bit of mana, so you want to make sure you kill them over land. That way they don't drop their mana into the lava pit either. For Wave 2, we can drop the last EV wall, and then the gas traps. You have enough mana to drop the gas traps as well, and I think they are really important to go down for Wave 2 because you're going to see Shark in Wave 2, and you don't want your walls to get charged. Since you have the mana, what I recommend doing is also getting that tower stack rolling, and what you can do is drop the first flame burst right in the middle, and either you can finish off the line of flame bursts or you can drop a DST. I opt to drop a DST here, and I just go back and to the right a little bit from the first flame burst. That way I have a DST covering one side, and then I'll hop up on the crystal and cover the other side myself with my DPS hero. You are going to see 2 Copter Ogres coming in here, and it's important to remember which side has the DST and which side doesn't. That way you know which side you need to cover for the Copter Ogre, unless you have all 3 flame bursts down first, in which case just be aware that there are 2 Copter Ogres for this wave. Heading into Wave 3, you're going to have plenty of mana to finish off this tower stack. Now, I think the smarter way to do this from here would have been to fill in the row of flame bursts first to have an easier reference point for where to drop the DSTs, but either way, fill out the rest of the tower stack and make sure that they are lined up pretty neat. That way, when you do drop that buff beam, you'll be sure to have not only all of the towers buffed, but all of the auras as well. Very important that everything is getting buffed on the beam because you're going to need it to help out with power and range. Now that all of the towers are down, you can drop your buff beam here, and what you want to see when you place this buff beam is all 3 auras pop out just like that, and then you can check your DPS to make sure everything is buffed. From here, with all of your towers down and your buff beam down too, you can swap over to your boost monk and start playing it as a booster. From here, in Wave 4, all that's needed to finish off the build are these reflect walls, the 2 going down here that are 2 DU apiece to cover the crystal, and then these 3 1 DU reflect walls to cover your tower stack and help you protect yourself and your towers from projectiles. For the upgrade priority, I would say max out the buff beam as soon as you can, and then look at the Strength Drain Aura, Electric Aura, and the walls, but that will complete the build. Okay, back at Wave 23 here, gonna G up, boost right away, and start shooting. So, you can see that I have that 7 projectile weapon from the Summit, Massacre Campaign. I think it's a great weapon. You maybe don't need it to do this, but I certainly think it helps. It's a lot more damage than the 4 projectile weapon that I was using. Just keep that in mind. But the main thing here, the main important thing here, well, 2 things really for me. 1, maintaining the boost on your tower stack. It's easy to forget. The main thing to look at is to make sure those purple swirls are always going on around your character. If you see them disappear, re-up your boost right away. Of course, you can always go by the 15-second timer on the ability button there, but then also make sure you keep focusing the copters. For me, the copters were an issue, and getting them to go down consistently was a problem for me for a bit. I did 2 things to make sure they would go down consistently. 1, I concentrated fire on them the whole time they were there. So if there was a Copter Ogre on the field, I was shooting it. That's 1. And 2, I moved that aura stack down 1 step. I was putting it as close as possible to the crystal at one point. but when I moved it down one step, that put enough of the range of the ores over those lava pits to slow up the copter ogres over the pits long enough for me to consistently shoot all of them down over the lava, and then I didn't have to deal with any of those ogres at all. Another thing that moving the aura stack down a step did for me was it made sure that when I did set up my towers according to the aura range, that the towers were far up enough such that spiders fell behind them and not on top of them. You really don't want spiders falling on top of your tower stack. There were times where when I was testing this that did happen and it was bad. They would web me and kind of hang out up there for a bit. You want them behind the towers, that way they just bounce the webs off of that reflect wall and then die to the electric aura. When I first started running this, I didn't have nearly enough range either. What I did to quickly get a bunch of range was put, the points you can move around, you can put all of those into range. If your Aura Monk is level 100, you'll have like 900 and something points. Boom, put them all into range. And then my Aura Monk is in Minor, so I got like a piece of Minor boots, I think, and I pumped that piece full with range and then swapped it in, and that was a good 600 or 800 range right there, because you get the 40% bonus if you have the full armor set. So if you just swap one piece in heavily with range, then it ends up being quite a big boost. So that got me, between moving the hero points around and getting that one piece into my set that emphasizes range, that got me like 1500 right away, and it was plenty to run this build. But yeah, gonna run around and collect all the mana. I generally leave a couple of level ups available on the walls for emergency repairs mid-wave if necessary. It never wound up being necessary, but I think it's also a good idea to level up the strength drain and the electric aura. Why not? And then put the rest of that mana into your tower stack. That's probably the best way to spend it. I think probably I should have maxed out my electric aura and strength drain aura right away and then spent the rest of the mana on the tower stack, but that's neither here nor there. Do whatever you feel like doing with the mana you get. I don't think it matters as much. Once you get past wave 23, 24, and 25 are easier because you've got a lot more build mana to work with. And I'm going to speed this way up here because it's more or less the same deal here. I do shoot down the copters, and I pretty much concentrate on them the whole time. You may make some friends up here on the tower stack. Some Dark Elf warriors may hop up and say hello. For me, it was always okay to just ignore them, let the electric aura take them out while I continued to concentrate on these copter ogres. It may seem like I'm prioritizing them way more than I need to, but every time I failed this build, every time this build collapsed on me, it was because a bunch of copters made it to the aura stack and hung out for a while and kind of bunched up on both sides, and then I wound up having a bunch of ogres come down and hang out on the center platform there where everything is and take out a wall, and then either I would lose or come close to losing, and I would at least lose a wall. So I wanted to try to rectify that as much as possible, so that's why I always shoot the copters whenever they're on the field. But once you get through the copter ogre portion of the wave, for me it was always a consistent win. I never lost once I got past the copter ogres. Of course, the sirens would subside too beyond that point as well. So I don't think I mentioned this yet, but this build is actually off of the build planner. It was put up by someone named King Kegs, at least I think that's how it's pronounced. It's King and then K3G4, I think is what it is. But big thanks to you, King Kegs, for putting up this build. It works great. I just made a few minor changes, but check it out on the build planner if you're interested. I will, of course, leave a link to it in the description. And just a couple quick notes. If you hear any, I don't know who actually watches my videos this far in and is still listening at this point, but my average view duration is 7 or 8 minutes, so I assume most people have checked out by now. But if you're still here, hello. Thank you so much for your support on my channel. But I'm currently on vacation. I'm down the shore in New Jersey. I have some family here that owns some property on the bay, so I'm actually outside right now. I'll pop a little picture up in the video here of my view of the sunset on the bay. It's really nice. I'm outside right now recording because there's nowhere else to do it inside, so I've got my laptop and my microphone outside on the deck facing the bay. But yeah, while I was editing this video, right in the middle of editing, I just popped onto YouTube to take a little break, and of course I saw Juice Bags put up a Wave 23 start, and it's like the same it's like the same build. So Yeah, big shout out to Juice Bags. If you don't know who I would, how could you not know? How could you know my channel and not know Juice Bags? He's been around forever in the Dungeon Defenders community, but essentially he's got the same build going on. I guess we both found the same build on the planner and ran it a bunch. So I'm on vacation right now, but I captured footage for this a couple days ago just so I'd have some videos to edit and post while I was on vacation. And just so happened that we we both had the same idea on the same day, I guess. But yeah, his video is very different. I'll leave a link to his video in the description. If you haven't seen his video yet and you've seen mine, I'd be surprised. But I'll leave a link to his video as well. It's the same sort of build, except he does like live commentary with it. So if you want to see the build minute for minute and get his input on it, if somehow you came across my video and didn't see his yet, feel free to check his out too. I'll leave a link to his video in the description as well. But if you do happen to hear some wind noise in the background or a dog barking, I do apologize. Normally I am a stickler for the audio quality on my voiceovers, but I don't really have as much control over my environment right now. That said, I am so glad I captured footage to edit while I'm away to keep making videos for the channel, because I was not expecting my Ancient Minds video for Massacre Survival to do as well as it did. I am completely blown away by how much support it got as quickly as it did. Thanks so much for checking it out if you have. But that'll do it for this run here. That's going to be the win. I do run around and check out the gear a little bit. Little blue circles on the map are going to be godly items, and I do find one right here. Boom. Now I am 2 for 2 with upgrading my apprentice's gear on these videos. That is a nice chest for him. Definitely an upgrade, and I'm just looking around for another piece to show off here. And I find one, a level 345 primitive helmet with all 4 builder stats. That's good stuff. Definitely love seeing that. This giraffe, not so great. My best giraffe so far is still going to be from the Ancient Minds, but it's all RNG. What can you do? Going to take a quick look at my builder stats here. My boost monk sitting at 1400 skill, 1900 boost. 1400 in each is plenty. Gas traps only for the trap hunters. Wouldn't sweat her stats much. And my aura monk is sitting at 4000 power and range. I think 4000 is a little overkill. 3000 is probably a safe bet for your aura monk. And my Waller EV is at 5500 fortify. My builder apprentice sitting at about 5500 power, 2400 rate. That range is probably way overkill, 2300. I don't think you need that much. And my beam EV, my buff beam EV is at 4770 for power. I think that's about right. Range and rate scale so much worse, but power is the way to go, I think, on a beam EV. But that'll do it for this video. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.